Welcome to Financial Issues, where we help you steward faithfully by honoring God with your investments. Now listen in as we give you the practical tools and advice you need to become a biblically responsible investor.
This is Financial Issues, where we help you defund darkness and fund the light by investing with biblical integrity. Welcome, everyone, to our show. Great to be here with you. Seth Sam Case, and broadcasting from our top secret headquarters in the Midwest, Mark Manila, your host. Mark, good morning, brother.
Good morning. What a beautiful day, and how nice it is to be here, to be with all of you. Glad you're joining us today. We have a lot to talk about.
We sure do. As always, folks, give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. Don't be shy. Give us a call at 610-363-1110. Our phones will be open for the next hour. So call in, 610-363-1110. If you've got things to talk about, we've got answers for you. One of those things, Mark, Matt Armstrong, our good friend from Crossroads Kids Club, will join us shortly to discuss our Easter card campaign. We're very excited for that. I'd encourage all of you to go to reachourschools.com.
That'll be good.
Yep, and write one of those cards to a child in public school. But first and foremost, guys, seeing some good economic data out here. Sam, give us the rundown here. What have we seen this
How did that happen?
Yeah, right? I know, it's amazing.
Who even knows, right? So first of all, we got manufacturing data showing that manufacturing, shock of shocks, continued to grow in February after expanding for the first time in a year last month. The PMI came in at 52.4 in February, essentially the same as January. And just remember that any reading above 50 means that manufacturing is expanding. This is despite all the claims to the contrary back in January that month was just a fluke. And, you know, it's just factories pre-ordering for the rest of the year. And it doesn't really mean things are actually as good as they are. Well, lo and behold, things just might be as good as they are. Meanwhile, we also got service sector data hitting a 3.5-year high in February. The non-manufacturing purchasing managers index, as it's called, increased to 56.1 last month. That's up over 2 points from January. And again, the highest reading since July of 2022. And just like with the manufacturing data, again, everything over 50 indicates expansion in that sector. So, Mark, what do you make of this? Is this another sign that Trump is turning the, aircraft carrier of the economy around?
The aircraft carrier. I like that. A little subtle, but good. Yeah, I really like that. What's really interesting about this is January and February usually are months where you're seeing layoffs from the service industry. You're seeing layoffs because they don't need all the extra Christmas help, the holiday help, that kind of stuff. So this is interesting that we're seeing very strong numbers still. And it's so different than everybody's trying to project. Every time you saw a good number come out about the economy, what did we see from the news? Somehow they slanted it to be negative. Like, oh yeah, the manufacturing, the PMI was up for December, but that could just be the Christmas rush, and don't expect it to continue.
Mark, I kid you not. So you got those service sector numbers, right? 3.5-year high. One article said, yeah, but these could be dampened in the future because of the war in Iran. I'm like, what, people aren't going to McDonald's because there's a war in Iran? What's up with that?
No more McDonald's, and I refuse to buy my necessary clothes like underwear and T-shirts because there's a war in Iran.
All going in the bunker, man.
Iran, right.
That's right.
Yeah, it's so sad. These numbers are encouraging signs for the economy. Actually, I think that people should be saying, wow, this is incredible. This is showing some stability in our economy when we have a war, and then that war doesn't affect our economy as much as people are thinking that it should. And the markets are the same way. We've talked about this a couple of times on our show recently about how when the bombing started last weekend and we were expecting the numbers to drop, how they didn't drop like they did, like they normally would. The knee-jerk reaction was nowhere near as bad as it used to be.
I like
these kind of things.
The Goldman Sachs CEO, he said that the markets are behaving in a, quote, surprisingly benign way to this war.
That's a nice thing to say, and yet it sounds so negative.
I know, right?
How did he find a negative way to say something positive?
Something positive, using a cancer negative analogy, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's just a little bit rough, but that's the way it is in our society, and that's the way it is. Here's the deal. Our economy and the markets are reacting like a strong economy and strong market to negative news. That's very positive. I love the idea that this is happening, because even if we didn't have the war, if we didn't have the Israeli-American-Iranian war going on, we would not be able to test this like it's happening. I think it's wonderful. The PMI measures are great. The purchasing managers, these are leading indicators, by the way. Leading indicators mean purchasing managers are making calls and coming up and saying, oh, we're buying all this different stuff. We're calling the factories and placing all these orders. So they haven't even got the orders yet. They haven't even shipped them yet. They haven't even been distributing yet. So they're saying, we believe we're going to be able to sell all these orders that we're ordering, bottom line. They haven't even hit the retail yet. So it's really cool. I love it. I love it that it's showing that we have an administration that is moving in the right direction. I love it that it shows that the American people are behind this administration. They believe in their economy. They believe in their Constitution. They believe in the administration. And we believe that as long as we stay focused on God, that he will provide. So praise God for everything going on, everyone. We're headed in the right direction, at least for now.
Man, a really good way to kick off your Thursday, right, Mark?
Amen.
Absolutely. We'd love to hear from you folks. Listen, if you've got an opinion about that, maybe you disagree. You know, Mark, here's an interesting thing. We get
if you're a doomer, call in, let us know.
Or even if you're someone, you know, we get a lot of calls from people who are like, I just can't stand how you've spoken so positively about President Trump. And here's why. If you're one of those people, give us a call. We'd love to talk to you. Let us know.
Would love to hear it.
Absolutely.
You know, I'd like to go back to that aircraft carrier turning scenario you put on. You know, economic policy changes take time to show up in data, kind of like an aircraft carrier. I know the new aircraft carriers almost can turn on a dime, but the old one, my son was on an aircraft carrier when he was in the Navy, and we did, you know, we went on that, I forget what they call them, tours or whatever. You go out to sea and they drop some bombs out on the ocean and stuff. It was really cool, but they don't turn quickly. The economy is the same way. So I just love the manufacturing expansion and the strong service industry expansion from this point where we have turned, and it would take a while for it to turn back now. So we're on the right trajectory. We're moving in the right direction. This administration has done the right things. My hope is they'll now do the same thing with the debt and the deficit.
Interesting stuff.
And I won't go into a rage or a rant on that so early in the show.
Mark, speaking of rage, how do you feel about Social Security? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, everyone. I'm joking.
I need to find something that gets me really upset. Maybe property tax.
There
I don't know.
Absolutely. Well, you know what doesn't get me upset, guys? Interesting. I saw this, Sam. It looks like Trump cut 380,000 federal employees. Now, I'm not one to just willy-nilly celebrate.
386,000 federal. 386.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And you know, Sam, I was going to say when we see necessary cuts, government money being spent the right way, or at least better than it was before, I like that. Is that what's happening here?
Yeah,
one can hope.
We're seeing a lot of wonderful stuff happening here. First of all, we have, let's say, approaching a half million people laid off from the government. Yet we're seeing strong jobs reports and non-farm jobs reports. We're seeing less and less people laid off. We're seeing less and less. So it's showing that we are seeing private sector expanding, government contracting, and to me, that just sounds like a Christmas gift. You know, that's the way it's supposed to be. This is the government should be downsized. Our economy should be upsized, and everything will work better that way. We'll see more productivity. We'll see more economic positive news. We'll see hopefully more taxes to help bring down the deficit and spending and the debt, and we'll see less money spent in the deficit by laying off these employees that are no longer really needed and never were. Actually, it was just a bloating of the government.
You know, it's funny. I was looking into that number and I saw all these articles from left-wing outlets talking about these people who lost their jobs. One of them was like 7 government employees who lost their jobs, where they are now. And, you know, I mean, I can have compassion for those people, but is the argument we're just supposed to give them jobs back? We're supposed to create jobs out of nothing just so that they can feel good about themselves? It's very weird.
Sounds a little bit communistic.
Yeah.
So it almost sounds like they deserve their job because they work for the government, therefore they deserve to have a job and whatnot. They don't have to prove themselves worthy to help the bottom line on a company. They just should get a job because they are who they are. Well, you know what? You got a master's degree, you got a doctorate, but can you help the bottom line grow? Can you help revenues come into this company? Can you help our profits grow? If you can't, then you're no value. Actually, you're an anchor. Unlike so many people that we know that are our partners that aren't anchors, but they're actually lifting one another up, helping to celebrate the Lord and what he's doing in our country and the direction we're heading. We have a number here. It's called 610-363-1110. You can call in and give your opinion and join the show. We'd love to have you. 610-363-1110. Hi, G.
Here at Financial Issues, we believe in being faithful stewards of everything God has entrusted to us, and nothing is more important than investing in the next generation. The most meaningful way we can do that is by sharing the hope of salvation with young people, giving them a foundation of truth that can shape the rest of their lives. Crossroads Kids Club is an after-school program that brings the gospel directly to elementary school children in public schools across the country. Week after week, volunteers have the opportunity to build consistent, Christ-centered relationships with kids during some of their most formative years. These aren't just programs, they're life-changing encounters that point children to Jesus and surround them with encouragement, mentorship, and biblical truth. Together, we can make a lasting difference for the kingdom. We can help reach children who may never otherwise hear the good news. If you feel called to be part of sharing the gospel with kids in public schools, visit reachourschools.com. Again, that's reachourschools.com.
Are you tired of the chaos? There are a lot of things that make noise, but only a few that truly matter. As a parent, I want to leave something that will last for a long time.
Invest $300 a month interest on slowly by the time you retire.
Not just an inheritance of money, but a legacy of godly values.
Here at Financial Issues, we want to help you grow your money, but our main goal is to help you honor God with the money that He's given you.
Invest your money in a God-honoring way. Go to financialissues.org.
Did you know that an unborn baby's heart beats at an average of 120 times every minute? That steady rhythm, that precious sound, that's the sound of life. Preborn partners with local pregnancy clinics across the nation to help mothers choose life, providing free ultrasounds, counseling, and the gospel of Jesus Christ. To give, just dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 baby.
Happy to have you here, folks. 610-363-1110. Hey, partners, conference call today, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 12 p.m. Pacific Time. So make sure that you make provisions to be there with us. Be a great thing for you to do. 610-363-1110. You know, Mark, writing a letter can be a really important thing, can't it?
It really can. I remember as a young man receiving a letter from my to-be wife that I didn't even know. I always believed she was going to be my wife, but wasn't my wife, and I hadn't proposed yet. But how much that touched me to get a letter in the mail, open it up, read it, and the things she said. Letters can impact the world.
Yeah, it really can, Mark. And, you know, it's not only, I mean, I'm sure we could all think of an example of an important letter that we received. I can remember when I was a kid, I got a letter from one of the presidents, and you know, you wonder, okay, was it really? Did he really write it, or was it an auto pen or something like that? That was signed. But I just remember thinking, oh, this is so cool. One of the most important letters ever written, actually, was an epistle that a man wrote to a church in Rome, often called by some the greatest letter ever written. That, of course, was the Apostle Paul's letter to the Romans. And Mark, that ended up being a world-changing letter. World-changing letter.
It was
part of the Holy Canon of
world-changing. It still is.
Yeah.
And that's the importance of a letter, of personal words going out to someone. And obviously, Paul was guided by the Holy Spirit. But that still, there's so much a letter, taking the time to write a letter can do. And this Easter, You can send a letter. Every one of us can send a letter, actually a card that will have impact. Crossroads Kids Club is making it easy for you and I to do that, to send a personal message of hope to a child. And here's how it works. You go to, reachyourschools.com, write your message online, use the form that they have on there and write your message in there. And then Crossroads handles the details. They take what you wrote and they handwrite out on an Easter card and then deliver it directly to a child in one of our public schools here. So you can write a card of hope, a card with a great message of eternal life or just encouragement, and it doesn't cost a cent to do. Helping us, by the way, that website again is reachyourschools.com to be able to do this. But to help us unpack this just a little bit more and talk about that kind of impact, we have Matt Armstrong, CEO of Crossroads Kids Clubs, joining us now. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thanks, Mark. Good to be back with you.
Well, we're glad you're with us. This is really a neat thing to think about. This campaign, I can send a card or multiple cards to children in the public school system that'll be handwritten and delivered to them one-on-one and to encourage these children. This is just incredible. Tell me more about this.
Yeah, that's right. Well, those who were around last year may remember we did this last Easter as well. And I was able to personally be at one of the clubs where we delivered the cards to the children. And I just got to tell you, being in that moment and handing out those cards and these kids receiving these messages of hope, these handwritten messages from financial issues members and partners. And yeah, it was just so cool. The looks on their faces, the smiles and the joy. And, as you were alluding to, there's just something, I don't know, almost magical about receiving a handwritten note in today's world.
Well, it's so unique now because everything's just typed and it's usually a text or something like that. So getting a card, it just hits all the senses, the tactile, the visual, even hearing it as they read it out loud. It will impact their lives. I'd love to hear stories about some of the kids last year and where they went and what they're doing today and knowing, it's just an incredible idea. And here's the deal. Oftentimes when we have when we have a nonprofit organization come on, they're raising funds to do something. And not that you're not raising funds, but this is free. It doesn't cost anything to do it. You can just take up 5 minutes of your time and do this and impact the life of a child who is maybe hearing about Jesus for the first time through the kids club in the public school, which is, we got to expand on that a little bit more and impact that. And it doesn't cost anything to do.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. When just so if everybody's tuning in for the first time hearing about Crossroads, our mission is that we mobilize God's people to share the good news of Jesus in public elementary schools through a weekly after-school club. And so we are bringing the gospel right into the schools where these kids are. And oftentimes when people wonder, how can I be involved? I say there's really 4 ways. You can pray, which is super important. This is a spiritual work.
Amen to that.
You can pay. We need finances to send it forward. You can tell others about this because a lot of people don't know what's possible. And finally, you can play. And so often what I have in view is you can volunteer in a club. You can get down with the kids and do that. But I think this writing the cards is another way that you can, quote unquote, play, that you can be personally involved in sending a personal message right to a child. And so I think it's kind of a fun opportunity that I hope people will take advantage of. I know it will bring encouragement to the kids. Some of these kids, many of these kids, right, they're coming from non-churched homes. They're like just this week, I saw a picture of a little boy drew about Jesus being the king, and he's from a Buddhist family, right? And so like these kids, sometimes the leaders and the other kids in their club, that's all they know of Christian community. So when financial issues partners come in and send these notes, and just letting them know they are part of a worldwide body of Christ, that this is not just something in their school, but this is something beautiful and big, and God's kingdom is global.
That's awesome. And here's, sometimes when we're talking about this, it sounds like we're talking about some third world nation and how there's no school and we want to build a school over there. But that's not what we're talking about. It's worse than that. We have these majestic buildings up and we have this institution in place. And I say it's worse because oftentimes, I know we're seeing some movement in the right direction, but oftentimes Christ does not allow it in the classroom, or worse, they're teaching something just the opposite. They're teaching socialism, or they're programming our kids in a way that takes them away from the joy and freedom and hope that God gave us with this nation. And having kid clubs come into those schools, we're able to inject the truth about Jesus Christ into the lives of many kids who would have never heard it otherwise. That's pretty
right,
important.
Yeah, very important. It's interesting because two things are true at the same time. Everything that you said about the forces of secularism and how we've tried to remove God from the public space is absolutely right. And at the same time, right, Jesus said the kingdom of God is like a little bit of yeast that goes into the dough. And that's what Crossroads Kids Club is. I was just watching a video story of these two little girls, fourth grade girls at one of the clubs. And I love this because the one had invited her friend who was kind of lonely into Kids Club. And the one girl who was already following Jesus invited her friend in. And one day at club, her friend, fourth grade girl, hears the gospel message, feels like she needs to respond, practically runs out of the room and goes to the bathroom in her public school, which was a private place. And there in the bathroom of her public school prays to receive Jesus, right? And so I love that just because it's like, when we think about public schools, we don't think, hey, there's a child that's accepting Jesus in the bathroom at their public school. Yeah, that's how the kingdom of God is breaking in.
That is incredible. And a lot of people like me, when I heard about the kids clubs, I was like, how do they get into schools? Because what I've seen is anti-God, anti-Jesus, anti-Christian forever since, I don't know, the last 20 years or so, maybe even longer. I didn't realize that we could get into the churches, that we could come alongside, into the schools. We could come alongside with churches getting into the schools and helping children realize who the one true God is and realize they can have eternal life and can have the Holy Spirit in their life. That's an incredible thing that's happening right now that you're doing. And can you speak just a little bit about how you do that, how you come alongside a church, how it's not actually you, Matt, doing it, but it's actually local churches doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. That club that I mentioned where these two girls were, that's actually, that's a great story in itself about a church partnership. So this was a local church that we found about 3 years ago. And they had tried some different outreaches in the community, actually, I think partnering with a government agency for a food distribution program, but they couldn't talk about Jesus. It wasn't very effective. And then they heard about Crossroads and said, we would love to see if we can't share the gospel with kids. And so we came alongside them, coached them about how to approach the school, gave training to their leaders, provided the curriculum and all the tools. So their first year of club, they had 30 kids. They didn't have enough staff to go beyond that, so they had a waiting list. Second year, they had 60 kids and still a waiting list. This is their third year. They have 89 kids and still a waiting list. We just need the workers to go, right? And in this, the children's director there, I think she said it was 19 children that have been baptized, that have come to Christ and been baptized and are coming to their church now. So we're just seeing God do amazing things. So now, we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but we work through churches for a couple of reasons. One, this being a financial program, right? It's leveraged, right? So if we had to hire staff to run clubs all across America, that'd be very expensive and a lot of friction. But there are 3 churches for every school. So if instead we direct our efforts on mobilizing, activating, training, equipping, supporting local churches, wow, we have a leveraged impact that can far exceed what our small team could do on their own. And then secondly, churches disciple the people. So not only these 19 kids, but something like 30-something families have visited this church at this one specific club, right? So we need to provide a home, a spiritual home, a church home for not only these kids for their life, but for families too. So.
Amen. And that's so wonderful. And I'm so glad that we get to come alongside you and you come alongside us. And together we lock arms and we move into the local churches, help them. And here's what really blows my mind is you don't even charge the churches for this, which is incredible. You just help the churches with their outreach or in-reach into the schools, and they provide the personnel and they do it. This is an incredible thing, Matt. We are so grateful to God for Crossroads Kids Clubs in America right now. And we look forward to seeing this impact over and over again. And like you said, the multiplication of what goes on. Thank you so much for being with us. God bless you, sir. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark. Write an Easter card.
Write an Easter card, absolutely. So do write an Easter card. Go out to and write that Easter card and become one of the people that is lifting these children up and introducing them to Christ. And give us a call, 610-363-1110. 610-363-1110. Really love to hear from you. Oh, yeah. And did you sign that petition yet about the Trump accounts? No? Why not?
In the last 10 to 15 years being in ministry, being married, something that has been constant in our lives is Samaritan Ministries. As we've moved, we've had babies, we've had different things come up, we have just been able to rely on Samaritan in ways that we never really even thought about before becoming members.
Our heart's desire is to plant roots and be in a place for a really long time. It's how we were raised. We see the benefits of that, but we also see the open-handedness of being used by the Lord wherever He calls, because we just assumed when we started pursuing church planting, the quickest way to get from point A to point B is a straight line. And with the Lord, sometimes you find out it looks a lot more like this. And yet, Samaritan was with us through the entire thing.
We didn't have to look into, we have to change insurances now because we've moved states or whatever the case may be. And it's just been a real blessing to us in different phases of life.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Colleen.
And we're the Gen X.
And we're Samaritan members.
I want to make a point. No matter what happens, I'll always be there for you.
I know.
Read carefully before investing.
Six 610-363-1110. Folks, give us a call. Phone lines are wide open. We would love to hear from you. Speaking of calls, Mark, we got a conference call today. Don't miss it, folks.
We do, yes.
Do not miss it. We'd love to hear from you.
We're going to go a little deep today on some things, some specific things in the news. So I hope you join us, and I hope it'll help you with management of your portfolios and direction.
Yeah. You know, Mark, there's There's not too much to talk about in the news this week.
No pressure, Mark, but I'm seeing in the chat people saying that they're expecting you to add some much-needed clarity right now to the markets. So no pressure.
Clarity to the markets?
That's awesome.
That's an Olympian-level task right there, but you're up to it.
That's right. Hey, partners, listen, you had received an email. You've received an email by now with the conference call info. You can also check it on the partner side of the website on the conference call page. If you're not a partner and you want to listen to this conference call, you have to become a partner. There's no other way around it. So do that right now, financialissues.org. Click that Become a Partner button. If you do that before the call today, you can join us live on that conference call. It'll be a great time. 610-363-1110. Mark, let's get to a question here, shall we?
Let's
An interesting one coming in from Nathan. He's saying, hey, Mark, Coca-Cola consolidation, so that's COKE is on your broad list. It handles the production and distribution of Coca-Cola, whereas the Coca-Cola Company, KO, manages brand ownership and marketing. So they're linked together, but I know KO is not biblically responsible. I've read a couple headlines. One, Coca-Cola faces boycott calls over not allowing Trump or Jesus on cans, and now U.S. Civil Rights Agency sues Coca-Cola bottler over event that excluded men. Should we sell COKE?
Well, it's a good question. Thank you for your concern about that, because that means you're watching out, you're looking, you want to honor God in all you do, especially within your investments, by not partnering with ugly, mean-spirited, anti-God, anti-family companies. And Coca-Cola is one of those. What you're talking about, though, is there's two different companies. There's Coke, and then that's KOKE, which is a bottling company, which is independently totally from Coca-Cola.
Yeah, it's not even a subsidiary, Mark. This is an independent company.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Totally independent. They're a bottling company. Tomorrow they could cancel, be canceled by Coca-Cola, and they could start bottling for 7-Up, or they could start bottling their own sodas if they wanted to. They are totally independent. So we have to remove those two. They don't determine what they print on the Coke cans. That all that comes from Coca-Cola. They just have a contract to bottle and can these things. So they're not responsible for that. And since none of the cans themselves are offensive to God that they're bottling, I can't ding them on that. We just have to say they're separate. But you know a little bit more than I do about the civil rights things.
Yeah, absolutely. That second headline there, I'll just reread it again. Nathan said, U.S. Civil Rights Agency sues Coca-Cola bottler over an event that excluded men. So, Nathan, you're correct. This was the COKE that's on our list. However, the event referenced here is from a 2024 company event that all it was a workplace retreat for women working at the company. Now, whether or not it was DEI, we don't know, but that's not a BRI ding either. If FISM held a retreat for the ladies at our company, that wouldn't be a huge problem.
How dare us? Because then I can't go.
That's right.
Actually,
then us
the
guys
men would go fishing.
We would go fishing. Exactly. It'd be wonderful. Absolutely. But no, it could be concerning, Nathan, if it was a DEI celebration or something like that. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But even a DEI event, that's not a reason enough in and of itself to issue a sell alert on the company.
Seth, also, I was looking into this more. Just for more clarity, sure. I think this is a completely independent bottler, even separate from the Coke symbol. I think it's Coca-Cola Beverages Northeast, and that looks like that's even more independent.
Exactly.
So I think that might even be separate from what we're talking about.
Exactly right.
But even so, Jim, if it concerns you at all, if God's tugging at your heart and saying, you know what, there's not enough barrier between Coke and Coca-Cola, then go ahead and sell it. Follow your heart on this. It's better to be beyond reproach. At this point, we believe there is an iron wall between the two. We believe that the bottling company is not trampling on anything that would cause a BRI infraction. But if it's on your heart, I say go for it. Sell it and find something else. I would do that myself. There's oftentimes I won't hold things that we say are clean just from something that bothers me about it, even if I can't even state why it is. I'll just go ahead and do it and say, you know what, Lord, I don't know why you're having me do this, but I'm going to stay away from this because it just doesn't seem to be beyond reproach to me. So there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Well said, Mark. Nathan, just for maybe some further comfort for you here, just a couple quick differences between these two companies. KO, which is not biblically responsible, that's the Coca-Cola that we all know of when we think of Coca-Cola. That's the brand owner. Coke, which is on our list, is the bottle distributor. KO is massive, multi-billion dollars. Coke is a much smaller mid-cap company. Coke usually has much higher share price compared to the price of KO. KO profits from brand equity, global high margin concentrate sales. Coke profits mainly on manufacturing efficiency and local U.S. distribution. There's a lot of differences there between these two. But Mark, all that to say, I agree with you completely. Nathan, if it's in your conscience to get rid of it, nothing's stopping you. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well said. 610-363-1110. Mark, another question we have here is from Jim. Jim is 68, and he says, what is the logic behind having such a low allocation of ETF2 in the growth and income models? I ask this because Dan Celia used to have this ETF as double-digit percentages. It would seem that this ETF is well diversified, provides orders of magnitude, less risk than a single stock. This ETF now comprises about 10% of my portfolio. I'm having a really hard time understanding why I should sell most of this position. What insight would you have for Jim there, Mark?
I would agree totally with him. Jim, I agree with you. And I'm not sure where you're getting that you should have to sell if it's only 10% of your portfolio. Maybe what you're looking at, even in the fund models, it could be 10% of the portfolio and not really impacting the growth part of the portfolio to the fullest extent. So I'm not sure where this question's coming from. Our maybe, Seth, do you have any insights into thoughts of it?
Here's my thought. In the regular model, you're exactly right. There's a small percentage of that ETF. But in the fund model, it makes a lot more sense to have a larger allocation. I believe, Mark, if I'm correct, the fund growth and income model has upwards near 20% for ETF2. So that's actually a lot more room for you to grow there, Jim. And so I would say this, Jim, look at the fund model that you're in. You might want to be in the fund model as opposed to the regular model. And maybe you're conflating the regular.
But if you're in the regular model, this can contribute to the growth portion of that model.
Yeah.
And it will be in multiple sectors, so you're covering a lot of different sectors. So you really don't have to sell it off if you're using an ETF, right? If you're in the all asset model, there's no reason to sell it off. You're just covering a larger portion with an ETF than the individual stocks. There's a lot of people who use the asset allocation models, the all asset, which includes stocks and other instruments, where the fund model only uses ETFs and mutual funds. So there's a hybrid of those that I believe most people use, actually, because the all asset model still uses ETFs. So if it's grown, you don't have to worry about that. Just realize it's part of that a growth portion of that model. Even in the income model, you still have a growth portion, and it's not overtaking the growth portion of that model.
Yep. Well said.
So I think you're doing good. Just realize it's large mid cap allocation with a lean towards income in the idea that all these pay dividends. So that's where the income of that portion of that ETF is.
Yeah.
So I think you're okay, Jim. I think you're thinking straight and you're thinking well.
Exactly. And Jim, my guess is when you said Dan used to have this ETF at double-digit percentages, that's correct. He had it in the fund model, and it still is that way. It still allows for double-digit, both in the growth and income and in the income model. There's plenty of room for growth there as well. I think you have a little more room to grow there in the growth, and even in the straight income model. So something to consider. All right, Mark, we got an interesting question here, and my goodness, I'd love to get to it from the chat, but why don't we save Thomas's? Thomas asked a great question in relation to what we talked about with Coke. Why don't we jump quickly here to Victor's, Mark, and we ask his question. Victor's saying, will the young man, I assume he's referring to you, Mark. I don't think he's talking about me. He says,
first of all, I really like you, Victor.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
I'm already in your pocket.
Exactly. He's saying, will the young man revert to classic Dan and do the 10 for 26 or the certain amount of stocks for the start of the year? What would you have to say to that, Mark?
Well, I like the idea of just for fun, but as you've heard over and over, I don't do predictions. I don't predict the economy. I don't predict the stock market. I don't even predict the individual stocks. And what I have found over the years is if you ever want to get in a predicament where you can be found wrong, try and predict the top 10 stocks for 2026 or the top 10 for 2025. I researched over 25 years of headlines on magazines and went back to say what stocks you needed to be in. And almost all of them were wrong almost all of the time. So I don't do that. Could we do it for fun? Sure. But you know what I'd like also? I'd like to hear what you think the top 10 would be for 2026. Why don't you all email me with your top 10 picks for 2026? That'd be fun. And then we can evaluate them at the end of the year.
It's a great idea. Love that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It'd be a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah.
Just like doing the show and answering your questions. 610-363-1110. 610-363-1110. Please give us a call. We want to hear from you. And we also want to hear from you regarding the Trump account. And if you haven't signed that petition yet, please do so. Go out to financialissues.org and click on the button to do that and sign the petition. We need thousands upon thousands.
Here at Financial Issues, we believe in being faithful stewards of everything God has entrusted to us, and nothing is more important than investing in the next generation. Crossroads Kids Club is an after-school program that brings the gospel directly to elementary school children in public schools across the country. These aren't just programs, they're life-changing encounters that point children to Jesus and surround them with encouragement, mentorship, and biblical truth. If you feel called to be part of sharing the gospel with kids in public schools, visit reachourschools.com.
If a woman sees her baby on ultrasound, it doubles the likelihood that she'll choose life. On top of that, we share the gospel of Jesus Christ with her. This is why you should support preborn.
Then they sat me down. If you were to die today, do you think you would go to heaven? And I was like, no. Keeping the child was my first stepping stone. And ever since then, God has cleaned me up from the inside out.
Help support women in need. Go to preborn.com/FISM.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Well, guys, the markets yesterday found their footing. They really rebounded. Everything was up rather well, and now this morning they're down again. So just some real nice, calm, smooth sailing for these markets, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah, it's just the way it goes during war and excuse me, an administration that is moving at the speed of light. You know, it's just normal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we love that.
Sure do. Folks, give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. 610-363-1110. Conference call later today. Make sure you join us for that. We do have Bible study in the morning as well tomorrow. I hope you'll join me at 6:30 Eastern time.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm too, Mark. It'll be fun. James 2 verses 8 through 13 will be there. So the cure for the sin of partiality. Looking forward to that. All right, James, good question from Thomas in the chat. Here we go. He's saying, so let me get this straight. I can't buy KO because it's not BRI, but I can buy Coke, who bottles for KO, and I can drink the KO product, but I can't buy the KO stock? Makes no sense to me. Mark, make it make sense for Thomas. What are we talking about here?
You know, Thomas, I love your question. This is at the heart of it all. And I would say, first of all, I'm going to say, if you feel that you can't drink Coca-Cola because, or any of their products, or use any of their products at all because they are not biblically responsible, I think that's fair. I think that's the other end of the candle to not being a partner, an owner in that company. On one end, you have ownership in a company. On the other end, you have utilizing the products in the company. In our society today, we can blow out the fire on each end and toss the candle away. I think that makes total sense. Not being able to buy the bottling company that bottles the Coca-Cola, I can see how some people might say that's not far enough removed from the soda, the company itself, the soda company itself. But then let's go a step further. What about the stores that sell Coca-Cola? Should we boycott every grocery store in America because they sell Coca-Cola?
And every gas station too. You can't get gas
and
anymore,
every gas station.
Those stores sell.
So where does it end? And if we do that, should we? How far does it go? Here's the reality.
Basically, you have to be Amish, right? To a degree.
I don't know about that.
I'm just saying, if you take it all the way, doesn't it cut out everything?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Amish drink Coca-Cola or not.
Well, they might. I hear some of them do have a sweet tooth, so.
I'm not going to go there. But what it does show us is we need to think these three things through. Jesus walked the Roman roads. He paid his taxes. He ate with prostitutes and tax collectors. He didn't avoid them, and he didn't avoid being in their midst. He just didn't participate in their sins with them. So I think it's a wonderful thing when somebody thinks this through, and that's where I believe biblical responsible investing, how it impacts individuals, is by the way it helps rewire the brain to think through these things. And I believe that, Thomas, I think you're on to something, and I think you should move in that direction. You should boycott those things that you believe are if you believe that participating in them through are them giving them profits by buying their products is the wrong thing to do, that you're encouraging them, then don't do it. Just like I think that it's the wrong thing to do because the Bible tells me that I'm not supposed to participate in other people's sin. So I don't want to be an owner in a company. Jesus didn't say to the prostitute, I forgive you and I want to invest in your brothel. He didn't do that. He said, go and sin no more. Yeah. But he still spent time with her. And that way he has influence. So at some point we get to the point to where we have to remove ourselves from the world. We can't use any of its products. We have to build walls and we cannot interact with anything. That's the extreme on one end. On the other end, we just flippantly spend our money on things that are anti-God, anti-family, anti-everything we believe in. And I think in the middle is where God, not exact middle, I think we never want to compromise. If you believe you're compromising your faith by entering into any transaction, whether you're buying a product or whether you're becoming a partner in the company, you should not do that. And I think it's a blessing to have that heart and to do all you can do to honor God in all you do, to the point that up until the point that you no longer can share Jesus Christ with the world because you've walled yourself off too much.
Well said, Mark. Really good. Thomas, I think you're exactly right, brother. Not only for, the things that you said and what Mark just said also, but Coke is really bad for you, especially Diet Coke. So it's probably a good idea to not drink it anyway. I used to drink it a lot too, and then I stopped when my eyes were open.
Don't tell Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. But yeah, eyes were open to just how poisonous so many sodas are. But anyway, this isn't soda issues. This is financial issues. Great comment, Thomas.
That's correct.
That's good. That's good. Mark, it brings up an example. I want to hear your thoughts on this. I've heard this example before. It's been spoken on our show. Imagine you have a biblically responsible light bulb company, and then you have a Planned Parenthood employee who buys a light bulb from this company and uses that light bulb to light up the Planned Parenthood facility where babies are murdered routinely. Does that mean that company, that light bulb company, is now no longer biblically responsible because of the connection with Planned Parenthood through that transaction?
No, it really doesn't. Any more than, the whole saying, guns don't kill people, people kill people.
Yeah.
You can use anything that is created in God's creation to sin with. Bottom line.
Yep.
We're really creative sinners like that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, yeah.
And they do. Whenever possible and whenever profitable, meaning not profitable dollar amount, but by honoring God, do what you can do to minimize what you're doing that compromises that relationship. God will give you the strength. He'll give you the alternatives. And if he doesn't, then you got to walk the Roman road if you want to get from here to there. You have to pay your taxes, even though the United States takes your taxes and uses it in many, many sinful ways. But God didn't say, don't give unto Caesar because he's persecuting my children. He said, pay unto Caesar what is Caesar's, give unto God what is God's. And that's the way we need to move. And we need to move in peace. I really believe that not enough of us are listening to God and hearing him pull at our hearts to not do this or to do that, or that it's okay to go meet somebody at a restaurant, even though that restaurant might not be the restaurant that honors God, but to meet someone to share Christ with them there. We have to go where the people are at times, and that doesn't mean that we have to be an owner in their sins. It just means we are in the world, not of the world.
Good stuff, Mark. We've got a question from Teresa, 68 years old, saying, hey, Mark, is Yrefy a safe investment strategy? What do you think?
Why what?
Yrefy.
Oh, why refi? I thought you were, why refi? Why not refi?
Why should I refi?
Yeah.
The age-old question, to refi or to not.
Not.
There you go.
Is refi a safe investment strategy? I'd be very careful about even getting close to that because, first of all, they're not publicly traded, so we don't have the clarity on them like we do with publicly traded companies who have to do all these reports on a quarterly basis, who have to be show transparency so we can see how profitable or unprofitable they are and what their pipelines look like. They don't have to do these kind of things. So as a private investment, I would say just off the top of my head, no, but we could go deeper than that. Remember that they're lending money to borrowers who previously defaulted on their private student loans. Think about that. They had a loan, they defaulted on it, then this company comes in, the loan company that lended the money to these people who defaulted, buys these loans at a discount from the lender and now owns these loans, and then goes and refinances these for these people. And in doing so, they're taking on a high-risk loan and then asking you to put the money in to fund these loans and hope that they don't default again. So I would say no, it's not safe. It might be profitable, and they may be able to do it in a way that you don't have as much risk as it seems like, but there's no way for us to tell. There's no way to tell when you'll get your money back from what I can see yet. So I would say only after fully understanding what the lockup periods are like, the risk structure, and how investors are protected if borrowers fail to pay, would I even consider being in something like that. So, I just think prudence and diversifications remain the key marks here.
Yeah.
And you need to stay focused on that. If you were to do Yrefy, I would make it a very small part of your portfolio and consider it speculative.
And Mark, it is only for accredited investors only. So that says something to this type of investment as well. So if you're not an accredited investor, you can't even do it.
Right. And the normal reason for accredited investors is because the government says, well, if you're an accredited investor, you have insights in the market. You have intelligence that the average person don't have because you have lots of money. And if you lose some, it's not going to hurt you and you're not going to become an anchor on society. So there's a reason why they made it accredited investors. And that you really need to look into that. Be careful there on Yrefy. Also, if you haven't yet, go out to Financial Issues, sign the petition for the Trump accounts. This is very important because it's moving over into other things as well. We need our administration to realize they missed something. They're doing great things, but they missed this. So join us in that, and join us tomorrow. Obviously, it's Focus Friday, and we have the bonus half hour after the first part. So you'll want to join us then. God bless everyone. Thank you for loving God.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.